It's 4:20 somewhere, and right now that somewhere is here. Welcome to the Cannabist Show. I'm Janae Burris, and here's your host, Jake Browne.
Hey, thanks Janae, and thanks to everyone tuning in. We have got a great show for you today, including one of our first pet guests as an actual guest. So today is truly about all things weed.
Hashtag all things weed.
And that's the serious marijuana news, along with the fun stuff as well. And if you visit thecannabist.co, you can read about Attorney General Jeff Sessions' task force on marijuana laws.
Looks like Sessions has found a few friends, and it's bad news and long prison sentences for nonviolent drug offenders.
Womp womp. You can also learn about flushing your weed from master cultivator Jorge Cervantes.
Oh, weed douche, how fancy.
And we also find out about our 420, excuse me, and you can also find out about our 420 420s project here at the Cannabist. Janae, what's going on?
Well, I spent the weekend at Denver Dink, and it had absolutely nothing to do with dual incomes, and there were a bunch of kids there, too. It was gross.
That's the, new Denver Comic-Con, right?
Yes,
and
not dual income, no kids, which is what I thought it was.
Wait, and so were you there celebrating comic books, or just not liking children?
Just there scowling at children, throwing my single life in people's faces, you know.
All right, very cool. I love the Denver Dink. How was it? Did it go well?
It went really well. Yeah, I was there promoting comedy, promoting my thing, showing people flyers about my show, Pussy Bros, you know, that kind of thing.
Wait, so you promoted your comedy. Did that involve actually telling jokes? Or are you just like, hi, I'm comedy?
Basically, hi, I'm comedy. Come see me. I'll be funny somewhere else if you buy a ticket, I promise.
I couldn't recommend it more. But now let's get to the week in weed. Now, in the past, we've covered how hard it is for dispensaries to get bank accounts and secure loans. But in Oregon, one dealership won't even finance your Kia Soul. Melissa Johnson, who works in customer service for the Bend, Oregon dispensary Bloomwell, thought she had secured a loan until the dealership pulled the ultimate "dude, where's my car" on her.
No, it's a used Kia Soul. Perhaps she dodged a bullet. Maybe.
They did manage to find a high-interest loan with a higher down payment, but Johnson learned the hard way that working for a marijuana shop means different rules apply. Tom Unger, a Wells Fargo spokesman, that's not the kind of company you want to be advertising. Can you tell I'm hungry? A Wells Fargo spokesman in Portland confirmed this when saying the company's policy was, quote, not to provide auto loans or mortgage loans to employees of marijuana businesses, unquote.
Oh, okay, suddenly Wells Fargo has standards. All right. Be happy you didn't lose your savings to phantom overdraft fees, Melissa.
Now, several credit unions interviewed for the Bulletin piece ultimately said they can lend to employees of dispensaries, but loans for businesses themselves still off the table. It's a good thing my credit score is so bad, or the Cannabist would be their last concern.
Oh man, dang it. I was going to ask you to co-sign on a Subaru for me.
Well, now you're talking like a real Coloradan.
Yeah, native.
Moving to the skies now, where the TSA's website generated quite a bit of social media buzz, and not for those cool pictures of confiscated stuff that they're always posting on Instagram.
Please tell me we can keep our shoes on from now on.
Not quite. For around 24 hours, the site listed medical marijuana as okay to pack in carry-on and checked baggage, something I wouldn't even advocate publicly. But according to the agency, this was due to a quote-unquote computer glitch, and the website was updated to indicate that.
Oh, but it's in a Ziploc bag. Come on, let me bring it.
In an interview with the Washington Post, Baker chief executive Joel Milton claims, quote, there's no way it was just a random data error, unquote, as well as noting he's a member of the Cannabis Mile High Club.
Ooh, if the requirements are smoking and then napping on your flight, I'm a member too.
Me too! Now let's wrap up in Maine, where Easter gifts may get a little better as many growers are seizing on the lack of enforcement to find unusual ways to distribute their harvest. Without a regulated dispensary system, the gray market is flourishing as presents of weed are given after paying a delivery or handling fee, similar to donations given to California collectives.
And after 3 days, the Lord rolled away the stone and packed a bowl.
Among them is Jack Sargent, owner of the Cannabist Shack,
from the Bible.
and he's in no way related to Radio Shack, but he's charging for packaging and handling, but giving away the actual weed for free. Now, Assistant Chief of the Portland Police Department, Vern Malik, claims that marijuana, quote, hasn't been a high focus of attention for many years, unquote, but he's planning on investigating after talking to the Maine Attorney General's office.
I, too, am planning on investigating marijuana after this episode.
Now, let's go to the cannabis business and policy writer, Alicia Wallace, with this week's Quick Hit.
The latest in a spate of marijuana-centric congressional bills envisions cannabis as a Schedule III substance. Moving it down the ladder of the Controlled Substances Act would blast open the doors for more robust research, said Republican Representative Matt Gaetz, one of 2 Florida congressmen behind the bipartisan bill. Marijuana currently is listed as Schedule I, the strictest of classifications with drugs like heroin. Schedule III lists drugs like Tylenol with codeine. I chatted with Gaetz about his bill. He said it would help protect existing medical marijuana states and also allow for banking activities. He said, quote, "I want to see the people that I fought for in my state have access to a legal, high-quality product that's been well-researched." Gaetz also told me about why his philosophy on marijuana law reform made a 180-degree turn in recent years and how he came to sponsor this bill. Check out thecannabist.co to read the full story. For The Cannabist, I'm Alicia Wallace with this week's Quick Hit.
Thanks, Alicia. Our first guest joins us from California, where he believes that sun-grown marijuana is the best. Please join me in welcoming Joey Schepp to the show.
Woo!
Joey! Thanks so much for coming down. All right, so you are Humboldt bred, and I think that Humboldt County has one of the richest cannabis histories in the country. What was it like?
It was wild, you know. My parents were urban refugees. They moved up from LA when I was 1 year old. We lived in a tent, like harvested water from a stream. It was wild, you know. The land was logged recently, and so that's what a lot of the hippies moved into, sort of the end of the logging industry. And so I grew up during, you know, pretty hardcore prohibition. It was like militarized state during the summers. You know, basically the military would come in with their jeeps and helicopters and everything, and they'd be, you know, searching for the grows out in the woods, you know. And so they had helicopters flying and, you know, dropping soldiers down to get, you know, the crops and pull it out. And it was, you know, pretty terrorizing, honestly. Like, all the kids of my generation are still sort of recovering from that childhood. I know.
Imagine.
So, yeah.
Because, I mean, you don't, like, have any choice over that. You're kind of...
Yeah.
So you're growing up in a tent, essentially? Or, like, where...
Well, we eventually had a cabin, you know, and that became the house and everything, So this is kind of the natural evolution, but you're, like, making friends in that kind of scenario? Yeah, absolutely.
Like, are you going to school there?
Yeah. School is very rural, had like an hour-and-a-half bus ride to get to school. And, you know, it was a tight-knit community, you know. A lot of the early farmers, you know, really helped each other out. They had, like, CB radio networks to, like, deliver information around the hills quick, you know, oh, no, a raid's coming, you know, things like that. And so it was really innovative, actually. And so just things evolved where indoor growing became the norm because everybody wanted to hide it from the helicopters.
Sure.
And then the helicopters got infrared, and then basically they started burying them in these like underground like train freights and everything. I mean, it was just back and forth, you know, growers versus the government.
Right. You
for
have
a
these
long
like
time.
California hippies that are essentially running like their own like counter-military tactics.
Yeah, kind of. You know, I mean, ultimately, it was peaceful. It's just like, let us grow, you know, let us be farmers. You know, that's what it's always been ever since the beginning. And so yeah, growing up in that, it was hard because it was a lot of secrets, you know. Sure. Nobody could really talk about, you know, what our parents did and things like that. And so, you know, now it's coming full circle to where we've got all these multi-generational farmers who are, you know, grew up with their parents farming and now are taking over the family farms, and things are becoming legal, and so people are coming out, and it's just a huge feeling of liberation.
So are your parents still involved?
No, they've retired from it now.
Good for them.
Yeah.
All right, so there is a retirement plan in cannabis.
There is, as long as you have kids, you know, or take it over, you know.
So when did you know that this was, because it sounds pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I don't know if my first instinct would be like, that's what I want to do when I grow up. When did it kind of click for you, or when did you know that this was something that you wanted to keep following in your family's footsteps?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always loved Humboldt County, and you know, my parents were big on like, go off to college, you know, like this is, you know, not for you because, you know, it could get you in a lot of trouble and and all these things, even though I saw that it gave them a huge amount of freedom, you know, to, you know, live in nature, you know, really homestead, do what they want to do with their lives, really live independently. And so I went off to college. I even went and got a green MBA, which is for sustainability. Okay. But now I'm bringing this knowledge back to, you know, the legalization. And so me and a group of other farmers have created Humboldt's Finest, which is a collective of farmers creating packaged sun-grown flower products. And so we're taking it on with a really big business approach now of just, you know, how can we be permitted, sustainable, all of these things to really deliver a high quality product. So it's come full circle.
Like when people talk about the Emerald Triangle now, it represents millions and millions of dollars worth of potential revenue. There's all of this land. I mean, what's the biggest difference that you've noticed in just the last few years up there?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, people referring to it as the green rush, you know, it's like our little town has went from, you know, sleepy town to like, you know, super bustling, you know, you've got all these people coming in looking for jobs from all around the world. Like our little town has like, you know, people from speaking all different languages. It's pretty remarkable the distances people come just on a whim. You know, it's not like they applied for some ad. You know, they literally come and they're sitting on a street corner going, I need work. And so land prices have went up. You've got, you know, different groups coming in, like the Bulgarians and things like this, you know, different families and stuff.
You've got families of Bulgarians specifically that are coming?
Yeah, that's one family group. Don't want to target them. There's some good ones and not so good ones, but
it's specifically, you know, in Bulgaria.
Yeah, exactly. Specifically in that group, you know, but certainly a lot of outsiders are coming in trying to turn it into a big profit business, you know, and then you've got the moms and pops who have been doing cannabis farming for 20, 30 years, and, you know, they came for the lifestyle. They came to homestead, to grow their organic food, to live, you know, outside of, you know, mainstream society. And so yeah, it's changed a lot, you know, but there's still a lot of, you know, really committed individuals that are sort of my generation who grew up in Humboldt, you know, helped preserve the last of the redwood trees, which Humboldt is also famous for. We were out there sort of at the end of the logging movement, protecting the last ones, protesting. That was kind of part of my childhood also. And so now it's like, you know, how do we reinvest in this community in Humboldt County? How do we preserve Humboldt? You know, you leverage this worldwide brand that's already out there and really, you know, ensure that the authenticity and the roots stay true in Humboldt County.
But now part of that is the, you know, when legalization was being talked about, you know, even back as far as like 2012, there were a lot of growers that said, hey, we don't want legalization. What we have works right now. Where were you on that argument? Yeah,
I've always been pretty pro legalization, but I've had a lot of arguments with a lot of my buddies who are like, no. And the big part of that is that they don't want big business coming in. You know, that's usually what it comes down to is like, yeah, I want legalization, but every bill I've seen, you know, really favors big business and brings a ton of bureaucracy to the small farmer and makes it hard to, and in fact,
what are the Bulgarians going to do, right?
Absolutely. You know, so I think that, you know, it's come full circle now, and so I think most of the small farmers are starting to accept it. You know, farmers that I was like, get on board. The deadline to get your permit in is at the end of last year, and a lot of them resisting. No, still screw the system.
But didn't the judge end up kind of like extending that or letting a few people in because they wanted to bring more people into the fold as opposed to have them out in the unregulated?
They've been pretty loose with the deadlines and everything, but certainly it was the crunch at the end of the year.
Cool judges, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're getting elected as a judge in Humboldt,
it's changed. You know, I'd say like 10 years ago it was very conservative. You know, who was running things in Humboldt, but a lot of the community have come on board and participated, and now Humboldt's sort of leading many of the other counties in California with, you know, the permits and, the whole process and everything like that. But I think there's 5,000 or 6,000 permits that got turned in at the end of the year, and many of my friends who are resistors at the end, like in the 11th hour, they said, "Oh, I turned in a permit. I registered in the system," and like that was the last thing I ever thought they would do. Their whole life's been about being outside the system, and so
it's crazy how quickly perceptions can change, and just the new reality that the cannabis space kind of lives in. I want to talk to you because you mentioned a couple times about the sun-grown marijuana, and here in Colorado it's predominantly indoor. So what's the biggest difference between kind of this outdoor-indoor debate in your mind, and why is Colorado weed better than California?
I'm gonna have to think about that one. Yeah. So sun-grown. So sun-grown is just basically cannabis grown by the sun. The way nature intended it. So a lot of people don't know that a lot of cannabis is grown indoors. They go and get from the dispensary their buds, and they would assume it's a plant, it's probably grown outdoors, but a lot is grown indoors, and there's good reasons for that. In the beginning, it was to hide it from the law. Now it's for the law to control it for the most part. By containing it.
I did a cannabis tour this week, and one of the women on the tour was like, "Oh, so you grow it here?" And the woman's like, "Yes." And she's like, "Oh, in the backyard?" And she's like, "No, definitely not."
Yeah. I think a lot of people are kind of surprised, and they'd be even more surprised to learn, like in California, 3% of all the energy over 1 million homes goes into growing cannabis indoors. And so so we're big proponents in Humboldt of sun-grown. First of all, it's our legacy. We've been growing sun-grown for a long time. And now that the helicopters aren't flying, we can finally come back out into the light, and that's been the goal. But it's also obviously much more sustainable in the long term. I mean, you're using a free resource, the sun. You're not having to produce electricity from coal or whatever the source is. And so that's a big part of it. Also, there's a new camp that's starting to do more testing and analysis on sun-grown, and actually shows that in some tests, like a fuller bouquet of active ingredients are found in the sun-grown versus the indoor, and that would kind of make sense. You got the full spectrum sun.
You're getting all that. You're also getting different spectrums at different times as the sun rises and sets. That's what you can't recreate nature indoors, right?
Yeah, you can get pretty close.
And trust me, people are trying.
And I don't like to dog on indoor because there's some great indoor growers out there, and they're also pushing the movement forward, and I think that that's good. But if we're really going to scale and meet this demand, that with California coming online, there's no way indoor is going to be able to do that. It's like, do we grow like corn indoors? No, we've got to grow it outdoors. So
I've eaten some really dank indoor corn.
I will
say that. Quick hit. What do you think outside of sun-grown? What's another big thing that people can do to work on the sustainability of cannabis cultivation?
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing we're pioneering is what we call rain-grown. So in California, we've got horrible droughts, and the farmers in Northern California, primarily, they're pumping water, diverting from springs that need to go to the rivers. Salmon need these cool waters to spawn and things like that. And so basically, by capturing the rainwater during the winter, which we have tons of, storing it in ponds or tanks, and then using it during the dry period rather than diverting from the creeks, we're able to be much more sustainable with our water usage.
Okay, so we've got sun-grown, we've got rain-grown, soon enough we'll have air-grown.
Air-grown, absolutely.
We'll get it all, and then fire-grown. I don't know how that works, but thank you so much,
all
Joe.
the elements. Yep, absolutely.
We're going to get back to you in just a moment, but first, we want to move on to our own Dictionary of Dank, Professor Pat, with this week's entry into the new Cannabis Lexicon.
Decarboxylate. The process of converting the acid form of cannabinoids such as THCA and CBDA is an essential part of the process if you wish to consume cannabis orally. Decarboxylation occurs at around 240 degrees Fahrenheit, converting THCA and CBDA into THC and CBD respectively. Though the acid forms of these cannabinoids have some medical benefits, normally decarboxylation is desired for maximum potency and effect in edibles, tinctures, and salves. For example, I heated up the hash oil to decarb it, and now I can literally just drip it into anything and make it medicated.
Thanks, Professor. Our next guest is a community educator with a maker of CBD products for people and pets. Welcome to the Cannabist Show, Allie Greenstone. Hey.
Hi, Jay.
Thank you so much for coming back.
Yeah, thank you.
Grab a seat. All right, so for people that are listening to the podcast, let's address the doggo in the room.
Right.
Can you tell them about our good friend here?
I can. This is Pierre Nugget Greenstone.
His middle name's Nugget?
His middle name is Nugget.
I know a dog in the industry whose first name is Nugget. Or
Yeah.
no, last name, Bobby Nuggets.
Close, very
Okay,
close.
just, people throw it in there anywhere. We call them.
Yes. The middle name is an ode to his place in the cannabis space, but also because he resembles the shape of a nugget.
He is kind of nugget shaped.
He's a Colorado native.
He is a Colorado native. He was
Okay.
born in Loveland. He's 2, and he actually is an official spokespet for Mary's Pets CBD pet line.
Okay, now how many spokespets did you go through before you decided on Pierre?
I think right now we're at a total of 3.
Okay.
And they're all pets of folks that work at Mary's.
Okay,
So,
great. It wasn't
know.
like a few goldfish that were like, they had to go up to the ranch.
Right.
Wait, you don't send goldfish to ranch. All right. So what I love is that Mary's has like spokes pets because you guys have a pets line.
Right.
It's a question I hear all the time: is cannabis safe for pets? And I think it's a really complicated question. What do you tell people?
Sure. And it's a tough question, but I think you could also spin the question, is cannabis safe for humans? We don't necessarily have enough research on either. But what we do know, we don't ever recommend THC for animal use, but we certainly have a ton of great feedback and testimonials from pet owners using CBD for their furry friends, whether it be for something like anxiety, dogs or cats.
So like, because my dog gets a little separation anxiety, like we're gone, we're out running around, and then we come home. So is that like a CBD regimen that they start off in the day, take throughout the day, just give it to them when they're anxious?
Sure, you can actually use it either way. I mean, you could use CBD as kind of a supplement for your animal if they constantly suffer from anxiety. Why not? It's not going to cause any psychoactive effect. It won't cause any negativity from what we've discovered, and it could really help your pet with his anxiety.
So it's because I cringe whenever I see the videos online of like people like blowing hits into their dog's ears or anything like that. How do you get a dog to take CBD?
Right. We definitely don't condone blowing smoke into any kind of dog's faces or ears.
Don't blow smoke into anybody, right?
No being.
It's not cool.
Nobody likes that.
No.
So we actually make a really amazing product. It's our transdermal gel pen. So it has a pumping mechanism, and it just pumps about a pea-sized amount of lotion, and you actually just rub it on the inner ears of animals.
Oh my God.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah, he's like, listen, you got to lube that up before you start putting it in there.
Typically
Where's
that
my
doesn't
CBD?
hurt him. You just give them a gentle ear rub, and it actually is absorbing directly into their bloodstream through the ears.
So how is that super fast acting then?
Very fast acting. We've actually seen it work as quickly as 30 seconds to suppress a seizure on a baby puppy. But typical uptake time is about 2 minutes for most animals.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
What else do people, because I give CBD to my dog. She's kind of aging, bad hips, and they were like, get her on ibuprofen. And we're like, I don't like taking drugs. I don't want to give my dog drugs. So what other things should pet owners go, oh, this may be a solution for me?
Sure, and I'm the same way. I definitely consider myself a naturalist, so I would never want to put anything into my dog's body that I wouldn't put into my own. So being able to use...
the dog food that we feed, I'm like, that definitely wouldn't go in here. It smells kind of like fish, but she's getting a lot of pumpkin lately because she's been backed up. That was way too much. I'm sorry. But back to okay, so we're naturalists. We're not putting anything weird in dogs.
Right. So being able to replace ibuprofen regimens using CBD or using cannabinoids, it gives them the benefit without any of the side effects or any of the liver damage. Excuse me. Other things you could use it for: dogs and cats that are afraid of lightning storms, car rides, vet visits. We've seen a lot of successful folks using CBD for those reasons and just getting a natural relaxation rather than a sedative effect or editing any of their behaviors.
Okay, so this isn't like catnip for dogs.
No.
Pierre's not going to be looping around here.
Definitely not. Typically when humans consume CBD, they report their mind and their body taking a nice sigh of relief. It's nothing sedative, it's nothing too sleepy, it's nothing psychotropic. So typically we've found that animals respond in the same way. Their anxieties and their pain or their seizure-related disorders just tend to get suppressed.
Okay, so have a dog with seizures, for example. That's something where you might go a little bit more of like a daily regimen.
Yes.
Now, one thing that I think other people are really confused about is what's a dose of CBD? Because
Sure.
I understand, you know, a 15% THC joint, I can, you know, I'm going to town on that. When you get into the 30s and like maybe puff and then just pass indefinitely.
Sure.
So what do people start with?
For animals, we actually have our pet pen dosed at 1 milligram, and that's actually to be able to cater to animals as small as 5 pounds. Traditionally, I believe that we recommend 2 milligrams per 40 pounds of animal. So I know we've actually talked about making an equine dose for our horse friends out there, which would obviously be a much larger dose. But really with CBD and with most cannabinoid regimens, it's kind of trial and try again. I never like to say trial and error because we really believe that cannabis is the greatest medicine out there. But it's trying and seeing what works. And if you have to use more, use more.
Did he have anything today?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yes.
Same page. I'm like,
chill.
yeah, he is so chill.
Yes, he actually has not consumed any cannabinoids today, but to take a look, this actually is our pet product. This is a pet pen, and there's nothing in here, of course, but it's just a pumping mechanism. One small pea-sized amount of lotion right in the ears. We won't bother Pierre with that today.
He licked his lips and seemed excited.
No,
and so it'd have the opposite effect. Instead of like leaping off the couch,
He
he'd
would
be like,
just-
this
yeah,
is where
he
I
would
want to
just be
chill.
chill.
This is my area.
Yes.
Oh my God, look at that smile. Oh, you're such a
Yes, we'll make it all better with scratches.
Okay, so you have the pen. One thing I love is that you guys are always kind of innovating with new delivery methods. What's out there now in terms of what Mary's is doing?
Sure. So I mean, we obviously have our award-winning transdermal patches, but we are constantly innovating. We're constantly making our products better. Some cool products that we have in the mix. We have some powder products. One in particular is called the Good Greens, and it actually emulates juicing raw cannabis.
Ooh, which is like a really controversial thing, because I know some people that'll juice it and have a really negative reaction to it.
Interesting. I've
like
actually
an
not
allergic
heard that.
reaction, where it's it's kind of an irritant. So this would emulate that.
It would emulate not the allergic, irritating reaction. And I wonder if that case, because you really have to be careful if you're actually juicing raw plants, that they're completely flushed and you're using only organic nutrients with your plants.
Interesting.
So what we've created is not actually juiced cannabis, it's water-soluble THCA and CBDA that's in a powder mix form.
And just toss it right in with your smoothie, ostensibly?
Exactly. And so it's non-psychoactive, but it can be unbelievable for treating and helping out with autoimmune conditions, cancer treatment and prevention, depression. It's really a wonderful, innovative product, which we'll actually be making under the Mary's Nutritionals umbrella now, so folks can get it outside of Colorado.
That's really wild too, because it's like we've seen such proliferation of these CBD-derived products that are going out everywhere. What was the big challenge for Mary's, who had been a company on the medicinal side that had been operating here in Colorado forever, really coming to scale and looking at not only a pet line, but this Nutritionals line?
Yeah, for us, it was the sourcing of the CBD. Initially, we did source from licensed cannabis grows here in Colorado, but we had trouble locating not only a consistent source, but a potent source of CBD, as well as finding a grower that grew as organically as we desired for our products. So with that challenge, we decided to grow hemp instead.
Really?
Which is exactly what we do.
So you guys have a big old hemp farm? How many acres?
Big old hemp farm. I think that it is 20 acres. Rare dankness. Those folks are connected to our hemp farm. It's called Elite Cannabis. And they are growing outside in Loveland, Colorado, as well as a greenhouse. And they are phenomenal at crossing different genetics. So they've hybridized high CBD strains of cannabis for us that do qualify as hemp, which is, of course, 0.3% THC or less.
Yes.
So we're growing all organic, pesticide-free, high CBD hemp in Loveland. And that alone has been able to allow us the scalability.
That's so cool. All right, so I want to bring Joey back really quick. The one thing I always ask you guys is what you prefer to consume between cannabis flower, concentrates, or topicals, or edibles too. Let's throw edibles in there because I never say topicals, but you know, let's add it to the mix.
We should.
Vaporizing flour.
Yeah? You're a flower? So whole flower
whole
in a vape.
flower, grind it up, you know, you get the full bouquet. It just, you know, it's I used to smoke the joints, but I'm a runner and can't do that forever. And so still ceremonial, smoke a joint. You know, it's kind of the classic thing in Humboldt. You got to be able to do that. But, you know,
or else you lose your emerald card.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, the vaporizers have really come around, you know, and just they do a great job. And, you know, I still enjoy the whole flower. So
do you have like an ideal temperature that you like to vape? Because that's the thing for me is someone's like, here's a flower vape, and I'm like, how high does it go?
Right.
And so I feel like I'm missing out on some of the vapeness of it. But
it's earlier in the day, lower temperature, and then later in the day, it keeps going up, you know? So sort of depends, you know? But yeah, I end up playing with it quite a bit, but it seems like, you know, if you're used to smoking, then you're gonna probably wanna turn it up quite a bit to get that similar effect. Sure. You know, if you have a very low tolerance, then you can do it at much lower temperatures and still get a, you know, an effect off of it.
And get a better idea of the flavor too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Allie, what about you?
Truly, I am a transdermal and topical user.
Really?
I used to be predominantly a flower consumer, but for me now, being able to hone in more on what I look for as a cannabis user, I do find that transdermals provide me that beautiful all-day time-released effect as opposed to having to keep remedicating with flower.
Interesting. How many hours are we talking?
Traditionally, our patches provide up to a 12-hour dose.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay, I took one before I got on an airplane, and I felt like I got like the 3-hour dose, and it was like, okay, I'm great. That's what's the difference for somebody who's like, I want something that's not smokable or edible, but what's the difference between like the edible effect and what you're going to get from a patch, I guess?
Yeah. Sure, absolutely. There is a huge difference in effect.
Okay.
So edible, when you actually consume, when you swallow something that has delta-9 THC, which is what all of our edibles use, in your liver it actually chemically converts into a different substance called 11-hydroxy-THC.
Which is bad stuff.
It's maybe not bad stuff, but it certainly is about 7 times more psychoactive than delta-9 THC. So I think that actually tends to be the biggest problem with recreational cannabis here in Colorado and soon to be California. People don't understand the mechanism there.
We've talked a lot about 11-hydroxy in the last few episodes of this show, so I don't want to go too far back down that hole. But so you're saying that a transdermal patch is just going to go directly into the bloodstream past that? You don't have that first pass?
Exactly. It skips first pass metabolism, and so the delta-9 THC, if that's the cannabinoid you're using, will remain in its state and give you just a nice, even buzz for up to 12 hours. So for folks using THC to medicate for pain, anxiety relief, folks use THC for asthma relief, ironically enough, in a low dose. It can work. It provides really the
bronchodilator?
Yes, it can be.
I pulled that out of somewhere.
Yeah, nice work.
Thank you.
It really provides a perfect option for a lot of folks that truly are looking for that medicinal benefit methodology.
Very cool. I want to talk a little bit because the cannabis industry has a lot of people floating around right now. You know, Joey, you're from Humboldt. Did you guys experience a lot of brain drain or people that were leaving to head out to various different markets as they went recreational before California hit?
Not a whole lot. I mean, certainly like we've been making a lot of plane flights to Colorado to learn what's going on. I think that's really what's going on is like anytime there's events, just like what's going on over there, you know, we need to be learning this kind of stuff. But, you know, a lot of the people are landowners and farmers and they're pretty grounded, not going anywhere in this kind of situation. And so, but definitely a huge influx.
Okay, and now, Allie, you're getting ready to move to California, and you're going to be still with Mary's there.
Yes.
Kind of, what does that feel like? Because you've been around, you've been in the industry for a while, but I'm sure there's got to be a huge challenge from going, you know, into this what is essentially an established market.
Yes.
But with all these new rules and regulations.
Right. It is going to be a very challenging and interesting endeavor, but that is definitely what I'm looking forward to with the move to California. I definitely anticipate challenges with, you know, growers like yourselves adjusting to a seed to sale system.
Yeah.
What's the apprehension going to be like? Are people going to shy away from the industry? You know, how long is it going to take for the regulations to level out and, you know, for it to be a similar environment to Colorado? So those are the challenges I anticipate. The positives, I am looking so forward to bringing products like Mary's into a market like California, who has a lot of the knowledge base of cannabis cannabis, but who I think has been missing the medical component that we really have honed in on here in Colorado.
Interesting. I always think of California as very like medical first. Is there, I don't want to say protectionist point of view, but I look at a market like Portland, for example, that's very much like keep cannabis weird and also from Portland. Is there some apprehension from, you know, Californians about people coming to capitalize on what's being called this multi-billion-dollar market?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, especially in Humboldt County, you've got like, you know, people like, hey, we went through the hard times, and now we should be the ones leading this and ensuring that the culture stays with the brand and everything. But across California, I think that, you know, it's pretty inviting. I think that we know we need all these resources coming in, and there's expertise that, you know, California needs and experience from these other states that are already in legal states. So yeah, I think it's generally pretty welcoming, but I think most of it's like, let's hold back big business and allow the small businesses to still flourish. So I think that's kind of the tension that we're playing with.
It's understandable. All right, let's go to every guest's favorite part of the show, the pot quiz. I forget if there's music that's playing right now. Okay, we're gonna start. Who wants to start? Okay, Joey, with a shrug of the shoulders, we'll get question number 1. A recent report by public broadcaster CBC indicated the Canadian government wants to legalize by July 1st of 2018, which is what national holiday in Canada? Is it A, Victoria Day, B, Civic Holiday, C, Canada Day, or D, Gretzky Day?
Victoria Day.
I am sorry, that is incorrect. Allie with a chance to seal. Is it B, Civic Holiday, C, Canada Day, or D, Gretzky Day?
I'm going to go with Canada Day.
It is Canada Day. Why Canada Day? Oh, Pierre's like, I hear bells. Starts licking his lips. Man, that Pavlov guy was good. I just go Canada Day. That's the best you could come up with. We don't have like an America Day, do we?
Not technically.
Not, yeah, but
4th of July.
Yeah.
There is.
Right.
Please, let's never have America.
I think that's almost less creative, just calling it the 4th of July rather than America Day.
Yeah, good point. This is just the day it occurred. All right, Allie, she get 1 point and a chance to earn another. Where in the Northeast are legislators hoping to legalize marijuana and, quote, beat Massachusetts to the punch? Is it A, Delaware, B, Rhode Island, C, Connecticut, or D, the Jersey Shore?
I'm going to go with Delaware.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Chance to steal for Joey.
Rhode Island?
That is correct. All right, we're tying it up.
All right.
Although I would love to see the Jersey Shore's plan to legalize marijuana.
Right.
I bet you'd get some cool, ironic T-shirts out of that.
Yeah.
And small shorts. I don't know. I've never been to the Jersey Shore.
Right.
Someday. All right, question number 3, back to Joey. 44 members of Congress want to change marijuana scheduling. What are they proposing it be reclassified as? Is it A, Schedule 2? B, Schedule 3, C, not scheduled at all, or D, leave scheduling up to TV Guide?
Schedule 3.
That is correct.
Yes.
All right, Joe, 2 points.
That would be awesome.
So that would be the same schedule as, I believe, like codeine and Tylenol.
Yeah.
You know, kind
what
of
it should be.
Right.
Yeah.
See, some people are like, declassify altogether. Let states figure it out. I don't know. Does the FDA need to get involved? We'll find out.
At some level, safety's important.
Safety is important, and I
true.
think organic certification is important too. When can we certify organics?
Right.
I asked the ether. Okay, back to Allie for a chance to tie it up. Maine isn't the only state having issue with gray market sales. Springfield, Massachusetts ordered a cease and desist to which shop for using similar tactics? Is it A, Mary Jane Makes Your Heart Sing, B, the Smithsonian, C, Mass Grass Glass with Sass, or D, Walmart?
I'm going to go with the Smithsonian because I love that name.
I'm sorry, that is not correct. Joe, with the chance to win it all, is it A, Mary Jane Makes Your Heart Sing, C, Mass Grass Glass with Sass, or D, Walmart?
Mary Jane.
That's correct.
That's
The only one I can
Yes, I know,
say.
yeah, totally. The other two were a little off the wall.
Mary Jane makes your heart sing is not off the wall.
You know.
It's like, what a great one.
I just want to open a dispensary called the Smithsonian.
Yeah,
It was
That's
totally, yeah.
amazing.
It was an old one here in Colorado.
Really?
I don't know if they ever got off the ground, but it was like a
Wow.
state registered business. It's one that always stuck near and dear to my heart because
It's
I too
amazing.
think it's the best. All right, let's wrap this up while I can still talk. Thank you so much to Joey and Allie for joining us on the Cannabist Show. If you like podcasts, this is one. You can subscribe, rate, and review the show. I will give you a shout out for Janae Burris, producer Vince, and the entire Cannabist Show crew. I'm Jake Browne, and we'll see you next week.
I'm allowed to lose, the truth to win. I'm all in, I'm calling any posse you'll be raising at the end. I say it again, ain't afraid to get in. I be going for the jackpot with aces in my hand, I'm raw.